Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Grim the Lord of Salt here. I've reached my 10th subscriber, quite the milestone. So I figured I might as well do a channel introduction sort of thing. I do, in addition to the regular content I make, occasionally do podcast style episodes or rants, whatever topic I happen to come up with at the time that I feel like discussing. And so that's available in addition to the usual content I make, which for the most part is going to be Let's Plays. I can't do any streams at the moment until I reach a certain number of subscribers, but until then, we'll see if streams even happen then. It all depends on what my schedule is like at the time, and at the moment there's no telling. So anyways, to introduce you to the type of stuff I do, this is a new channel, obviously, as I'm making of this video. But I am not new to YouTube. I deleted my old account, but originally I had made that account way back in 2007. I started making video content for it in 2010, and in 15 years of making YouTube content, I managed to reach about 550 subscribers and not nearly enough watch time to monetize, so no big deal for me, because it's the end goal to me is not to make money. You know, it'd be great if it happens, but I'm not going to force anything, and it's not the objective necessarily. I just like making videos. It's always been kind of a hobby of mine. You know, when I was a kid playing video games, back then, to hook a game up to your TV, usually you went through the VCR. That was where the connectors were in the back. So since you had a VCR, to me it just made sense. Like, you know, stick a blank tape in there and you can record yourself playing games sometimes. And it was kind of convenient, because in cases where maybe you didn't want to have to play a whole game again, you just wanted to see certain parts of it, like cool cutscenes or whatever, you could record those cutscenes on the VHS tape, which I did, and then I could watch them back whenever I wanted to. That's kind of how I got started. Seeing guys like James Rolfe and his Angry Video Game Nerd inspired me to start making video reviews on YouTube at the time, which is why it was so long ago. I kind of gave up on the idea of becoming like a commercial YouTube content creator, because it just wasn't happening. And as time went on, I kind of came to terms with what it actually takes to be successful in that. You know, a big part of it being luck, and a number of things that I don't have advantage of some certain privileges, of course. And it was probably just never going to happen. And I don't really want to make the kind of content that would have made me bigger on YouTube. I did have one opportunity at one point, not necessarily with YouTube, but Sony, of all people, were plugging me a lot on the PlayStation Network, and but it was to a lot of kids. So if I had rolled with that, I could have grown a lot faster, making, you know, family content or kid-friendly stuff. But that wasn't what I wanted to do. That's how a lot of YouTubers got big, really, is appealing to kids, right? Guys like PewDiePie and Mr. Beast, it's that kid appeal factor, and the kind of games they play and the way they act. It's not necessarily the quality of the content, right? You know, these guys that are millionaires or billionaires, making basically the bottom tier type content on YouTube, right? They're just sitting there playing video games. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, the nature of the beast. I didn't want to make that kind of content. I wanted to make adult content, you know, not necessarily R-rated stuff, obviously, you know. But I wanted to make mature content for adults, and to operate under the assumption that my viewers are adults, capable of critical thinking, hopefully, for the most part. Things like that. And I wanted to be more informative type videos. That's why I started making the reviews, because I felt a lot of especially in terms of video games reviewers, really weren't being objective anymore. They largely become opinionated, which really defeated the purpose of reviews in the first place, I think. You know, and when it comes to certain things, obviously, there's a lot of subjectivity is inevitable, especially if you're reviewing something like art, for instance. You know, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Even things like books can be largely considered subjective. However, video games are a product. There's underneath those graphics, there's a bunch of math equations. So there's a functionality to it, and as such, with functionality becomes objectivity. And even when it comes to opinions, if you take the time to list the reasons behind your opinions, you will find some objectivity there. And that's with the reason comes objectivity. And a lot of people neglect that. They will just give the opinions because in their mind, that's all the videos are about, is their personal opinions. Nothing else matters. If they don't like a game, they will only talk about what they didn't like about it. They will make stuff up that's bad about it. If they did like a game, they will hype it up to a way over whatever it's actually quality-wise. A lot of ridiculously overhyped games out there, in my opinion. But that's the kind of content people were making, and that's why I wanted to do reviews, because I wanted to try to bring some objectivity into it and try to help just inform people. Is all I'm really interested in. Is I know information, I learn things when I do research, and I like to spread that information when I can. So, because I like learning myself, I like to figure things out, and I figure there's probably some other people out there that like to as well. So that's a big part of it. Another thing is I just like playing video games. I just like making videos, and it all just kind of comes together. Now, the Lord of Salt title that I've given myself came from a few years back. A fellow YouTuber and I, we were playing some FromSoft games, were popular at the time. He played, and to his credit, played through all the Dark Souls games, the whole trilogy, and Sekiro as well afterwards. I was playing Bloodborne. I got probably about halfway through it and stopped playing largely. Just, it didn't interest me much anymore. It was fun at first, but anyways, during those times, we both kind of developed nicknames, whereas, him playing Dark Souls, every time he'd mention, I got to be careful or I'm going to fall. And of course, Dark Souls 2, the final boss being known as the Fallen King, we started giving him that nickname, that he was the Fallen King, and because he kept falling. And I dubbed myself the Lord of Salt because I would get frustrated and go on a rant, especially while playing games like Bloodborne, about how much I hated it and it felt like it was a waste of time. It's different each time it happens, but I get salty, and it kind of became my moniker from then on of being the angry retro gamer kind of deal. But I did manage to attract obviously a number of viewers over the years, and though I never made it, was never popular, it was something I had fun with. The reason I deleted the channel, there was over 2,000 videos in 15 years of YouTube. The reason I got rid of it is because I had gotten to the point where, I didn't want to be monetized. I didn't want ads on my videos. Over the years, there's been a number of times where the cost of living is higher than it's ever been before right now, and it's hard to pay the bills. And sometimes you got to make cuts, and one of the first things I usually end up cutting is the YouTube Premium, because that annual charge it's a big expense. And when you've only got like $100 in the bank and you're planning on going food shopping, and all of a sudden it's gone because of YouTube, that's frustrating, right? That leaves you in a tight pickle. Now you got to borrow from somebody. And then once you get rid of Premium, you realize how bad the YouTube ads actually are, and it is absolutely ridiculous out there. It makes a lot of the content straight up unwatchable, right? It's the same. The ads themselves are horrible, and a lot of people max out their ad placement as well, because once you're monetized, you do have the choice of the frequency and the length of the ads, how long they're required to watch before you can skip. You'll watch one YouTuber who will have ads on, but you can skip after a few seconds. Another YouTuber will have less ads on, but maybe you'll have to watch a whole minute before you can skip. But a lot of people max it out, so you get lots of ads that you have to watch for a minute. And that, unless it's really good content, like, I'm not going to bother with that. You're going to lose me. And I'm sure I can speak for a lot of other people who just can't afford the Premium anymore. So I figured a good angle for my channel was being the guy who didn't have ads. And so that's why I wasn't interested. If the monetization came up, I just wasn't going to do it. I would do other things, maybe like do memberships, allow super chats and that sort of thing, but I wasn't going to ever put ads on my videos. So I started putting that on the video titles. Just watch this, ad free, right? Here's the cutscenes from this game, ad free. So that was the approach I was taking, and then I realized that while I was casually watching one of my own videos, an ad popped up, which is strange because I never monetized. I was getting closer to monetizing, but really nowhere near actually being able to do it. And what I came to realize is YouTube can monetize all of your content whenever it wants to, and there's nothing you can do about it. They don't have to offer you any of it, and there's no way for you to disable it. Once you're monetized, you can choose to have videos not have ads on them specifically. So if they're not monetized, they won't have ads. But until you're monetized, there's no way to stop that. There's the only other way is by how you publish it. It can't be public is the only way to keep ads off of there. So you have to either make it unlisted, so people can only watch the video if they have the URL. I do have a Discord. If you're interested in joining, let me know. I do post links to and I do have some unlisted videos because I want to make sure that they're ad-free. I'll post them on my Discord, so you can join my Discord and get the links from there. The other setting is to private them. Now, private on YouTube means you pick who gets access to the video. You put in a list of emails of specific individuals. I guess YouTube sends them an email or something, letting them know they have access to the video, and then that's the only people that can watch it besides yourself. Now, both of those options will be ad-free, but there's no option for subscribers only when you're not monetized, okay? Rumble, on the other hand, they monetize all their videos by default. They pay you automatically by default. Their ads are much shorter. You can always skip after a few seconds, 5 seconds at most. And if you private a view there, they have the same unlisted feature, which works the same way. But they also have a private feature. The Rumble private feature works with subscribers. So all your subscribers can see your private videos. However, on YouTube, that's not the case. If it's private, only specific, identified individuals by email can see it. So it's really a pain in the neck to try to use, right? Basically, the only function, if you want to keep ads off your video indefinitely, the only way to do it is to basically just make videos for yourself to upload to YouTube. So I guess you can watch them, right? Like if my original ideas of making movies out of my games, so I don't necessarily have to play the game over and over again or keep the old console running, record it, and you've got it for posterity, and you can relive that story at least without having to worrying about if you still have a copy of the game laying around. So you can do that, and you can upload it to YouTube and watch it on your TV, or if you've got a job with a lot of downtime, you can watch it when you're there or whatever. But it's not useful for audience engagement. I do like the audience engagement, even if it's a small audience, as long as they pop in and say something. I like the exchange. I like it's the reason I started making content was so I could share information and discuss with people, and I like to discuss with people, even though I'm kind of antisocial by nature. When I do find someone who I have things in common with and we can talk about something I actually know about, it's hard to get me to shut up sometimes. So that's one of the reasons why I make this kind of content, and I look for people like me that I can have similar ideas with, and I watch their content and they watch mine, and we have a nice exchange. So that's how I do on why I do these videos, but that's also what makes it frustrating. So now that I'm back to making videos regularly, the plan is I'm not going to worry about the ads until I have a choice in it, right? If that ever happens. If it doesn't happen, so be it. If there's something I want to make sure is ad-free, I will have to delist it or make it private. So most people won't have access to those, unfortunately, but that's the nature of the beast, right? If you do like my content and you want to support me in some way, you can, of course, watch my Rumble videos. Again, watch time helps, watching ads and all that, and I don't make a lot of money off of those, but every little bit is something. So that's at the moment, if you did want to support me, that's a good way to do it. Otherwise, I ain't going to take it personal if you stick to YouTube for the moment and watch it ad-free. That's all fine. I do have some content that's always going to be ad-free regardless. So anyways, whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, thanks for checking out the channel. At the moment, I am working on Suikoden. We're playing the Suikoden 1 and Suikoden 2 remastered set. And also, I started an Arkham Origins playthrough. I actually have a lot of footage and commentary recorded for that. However, I might not continue with the Arkham Origins. Suikoden's definitely going forward. The plan is to play through all the Suikodens I can get my hands on. Obviously, this is going to require a lot of emulation because the games haven't been re-released. Konami hasn't been on that really, like Capcom and some other companies do. Square usually does. So instead, you got to do what you got to do. You got to emulate it. So the plan is to do. There's 5 main Suikoden games. There's Suikoden Tactics, one of the spin-offs. I wanted to do the 2 Suiko Gaiden games, even though they were only released in Japan. They did have a patch for it, an English patch made by the fans. But unfortunately, I couldn't get it to work. So I'll try again some more to see if I can get it going. But otherwise, we'll be doing Suikoden 1, 2, and the remastered set, of course. And from there, we'll switch to emulators because the rest is all PlayStation 2. So we'll do Suikoden 3, 4, Suikoden Tactics, and Suikoden 5. So that's the plan, going through those in the order that they were made, not necessarily chronological, of course. And that'll keep us busy for now. I do want to do a secondary project so I can take a break. The idea is to do 2 games at once, right? So I can switch between them, and because as much as I enjoy a good turn-based game, sometimes you gotta cut loose and have some action going on. And that was the plan for the Arkham series. I was going to play through them all. I've got them all on PC. But what I also realized is I still have them all on my consoles. I got PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 still hooked up. I moved the PS3 back to the living room because I had it in the office for recording purposes, but I never use it, so it just sits there. So I thought to myself, well, I can play all the Batman games comfortably from my chair. And the thing about the Batman games, the Arkham series in particular, they're about 6 hours to complete the main story for each game, you know, and a couple more hours for the side quests, maybe an hour for DLC. So they're not terribly long games, depending on if you try to 100% them or not. If you go 100%, then yeah, it can take a bit longer. And that was the plan for this series, 100%ing the whole Arkham series on PC. It was going to be Origins, Blackgate, Asylum City, and Arkham Knight all together. And no, I can't do the VR missions, unfortunately. The VR games, I don't have a VR headset at the moment. Probably never will. They're expensive, and they take up a lot of space in order to play them. So, anyways, that was the plan. But I like playing the Arkham games because they're shorter. Just sitting in my chair with my dog Seamus, you know, and sort of a thing we do in the mornings to loosen up a bit. And you know, it's and I like being able to do that. And there's having the PlayStation 2 and 3 and the libraries I have available for the two of them leaves me a lot of good options for, you know, chair gameplay rather than, you know, sitting at the desk isn't the most comfortable place in the world to be sitting playing video games. That's why I never did very long streams, because my back starts hurting. So, you know, that the Arkham games might get canceled, and I might do something else in place of those. Of course, if you know me, you know the kind of games I have. Feel free to leave suggestions. I've been going over the list. There's not a whole lot. You're looking at WWE 2K25 here. I might do some of that. I've been wanting to do some career mode stuff. The problem with doing career mode in YouTube from WWE is they will always delete the audio for the entrances, so you can't do entrances. So either just disable the entrances or you make it Rumble only, right? So, because Rumble doesn't care, but unfortunately the WWE does. So I probably won't go that route. Instead, I'll have to come up with something. But in the meantime, I hope you guys find something here you like, and welcome to the channel. We've got plenty of stuff in the pipeline. There's a ton of games I have in my library that I haven't had time to play and get around to. So there's always potential for interesting things. I do a lot of retro stuff and some modern things. I can't go super modern because even though I built this computer as a gaming rig, and it's okay, it's got a 3060 Ti, but an i7 processor, so it does all right. But the newer games coming out are, you know, more and more demanding, and it's harder and harder for this old 360 to keep up. So I will probably 3060, sorry, not 360. I will probably stick to slightly older games, and we'll see where we go from there. So anyways, I hope you guys found this video informative. I look forward to seeing you guys again. Until then, this is Grim signing off, saying stay salty.